Parasite won Best Picture at the Academy Awards last Sunday. Can you believe it? If it fits! Hello everyone, I'm Chris Fitz, and I am super excited that Parasite won Best Picture last weekend. It was by far my favorite film of all the ones nominated, and the more I think about it, and the more I hear people talk about it and analyze it, the more I think it might be becoming one of my favorite films ever. Feels too early to be making that statement, but it's a fantastic movie. All you see is my disgusting basement in these videos. It's not disgusting. It's not tidy. I'm glad people are talking about it, and even those people that go, gotta read it. They're even checking it out, which I think is a good thing. I'm gonna wear my glasses now. So, bigger statement, I think that the Best Picture win for Parasite is good for film. And while I think that it winning is the exception and not the rule, I do think that the Academy Awards overall are good for film and film literacy. Hear me out. I got thinking about this last week because Wisecrack put out a video that was kind of making the exact opposite point that I'm about to make. And by the way, if you don't know Wisecrack, go check them out. They're putting out some of the best film content on the internet since the death of every frame of painting. They're not dead. It's not about filmmaking per se, it's more about the philosophy of film and television and pop culture, but they're great. Check them out. I probably shouldn't be sending you to other channels in the middle of my videos, but just subscribe here first, you jerk. Anyway, so a very simplified version of their argument is that the Academy Awards are actually a detriment to the film industry, because instead of awarding films that are innovative or challenging or kind of move the medium into different places, most of what ends up getting nominated are just kind of Oscar bait, middling, tepid historical dramas. Crash and Green Book are probably the most prominent examples of films that won the Best Picture Oscar and that most people consider mediocre. And that's being generous. And also, another quick side note, I'm having tangents within my tangents. Since I brought up Green Book, 100% agree. There are larger systemic problems with representation and things like that in the film industry. I know they're there. I'm not going to be talking about them in this video. This has more to do with the Academy Awards and how we watch films, not necessarily the substance of those films. First, I have an egalitarian philosophy when it comes to art, and understanding that is very important to everything that I'm about to say. I don't believe that there is a hierarchy. I don't believe that there is good art and bad art. Obviously, there are technical aspects to making art, and those can absolutely be judged more objectively. But once you are technically competent at your craft, to me, it all pretty much comes down to intentionality. Martin Scorsese and Spike Lee are never going to make bad movies, but they may fail in conveying their intention to an audience through the medium of film. And even judging that, I think, can be pretty subjective. I did not always think this way. In my younger and more vulnerable, I was an ass, and I essentially poo-pooed anything that I deemed as lesser art. I was pretentious, and I think a lot of that stemmed from an insecurity about my intelligence and my need to seem smart to other people. I used art in a way to indicate who I was to the world, or who I wanted the world to see me as. And so in my 20s in New York City, I liked the idea of being a cinephile more than I actually liked the slow artistic films I would go see at IFC Center. But I pinpointed two films around that time, which was around 2013, that really started to change things for me, and that was Beyond the Hills and Once Upon a Time in Anatolia. They are both 2.5-hour foreign films. They're ambiguous, they're deliberately paced, and I just did not get what everyone saw in them. Were people just pretending to be entertained by this stuff? And those two films, I saw them around the same time. They just kind of sent me on a quest, the beginning of trying to understand. A few years later, I started my Top 50 Showdown, which you can still watch on this channel here. And that's where I took the top 50 films from the American Film Institute top list of 100 movies and the top 50 movies from the British Film Institute, or Sight and Sound magazine, whatever, list of top 100 movies of all time. I took one film from each of those lists, watched them both in a week, and then talked about them every week over the course of a year. I swear that there is a point to all this, by the way. So every week I was watching Godard, Fellini, Bresson, Satan's Tango, and the more I watched these films, the more I saw or started to see what other people were seeing in them. And it's not that I was getting smarter, I was just getting more well-versed in the language of film. I was watching these films differently, looking for different things, looking for camera movement, for lighting choices. The more I watched, the easier it was for me to speak the language that these filmmakers were speaking. And that's when I really started to develop this ideology of art as perspective and not some kind of sliding scale from worst to best. Which brings me back to the Academy Awards and to film literacy. You see, I'm getting to the point. If the argument is that the Academy Awards don't always nominate the most challenging or innovative or revolutionary films and they rely more on safer, more popular things, I think I can agree to that. I think I can get on board. But those films are usually made by really good filmmakers who worked really hard in their craft to get to where they are. And so all of those films do contain the elements that people need to internalize. So when they are confronted with a more challenging movie that maybe uses longer, slower paced takes, uses mood and ambiance more than dialogue, using color to express meaning and whatever it is. When people are confronted with more challenging films, they will have, at the very least, the beginnings of a cinematic language that will help transition them to a Godard, a Bresson, a Jarmusch. It'll help them appreciate it more. And coming back to Parasite, I think that was able to break through because not only is it a great, insightful, beautifully made film, it's also just a fun, funny, exciting thriller. I just want to give a big disclaimer here that I am in no way saying that these Best Picture nominees are somehow beginner films. Not what I'm trying to say. That was exhausting for some reason. Transition. The first ever People Who Make Stuff podcast is now officially live. You can watch it here. There are links in the description for iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher. Each week I'm going to sit down with some sort of creative human being, actors, writers, directors, engineers, musicians, woodworkers, aerialists, I don't know. I'm gonna sit down with them, I'm gonna talk about their process, not just what they make, but how they make the things they make, how they set goals, how they get things done, because I find that infinitely fascinating, how any of us who make things get the things made. For this first week, I talked to actress, musician, educator, Candace Fitzgerald, my wife. Again, links in the places where links live. That's it. Subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comments if you think my opinion is trash and you think there are objectively good and bad movies. I want to know that. I want to know from you. I want to know that. I want to have that information. And I will see you next week.